All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a 49er video. A little bit about their week one opponent, the New York Jets. We'll talk all Jets here in this video. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket chili. Tell them that Krug sent you. And this video is brought to you by our brand new sponsor. We're brought to you by Mancini's Sleep World. They're now a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. I am loving my Mancini's bed. It's an awesome bed. Mancini's offers a 120-night guarantee with a range of brands and price points. With Mancini's, you get free next-day delivery. Check the link below or go to sleepworld.com to find a bed that works for you. Whether you're shopping online or visiting in store, if you use the code KRUG10, you'll get 10% off. That's KRUG10, K-R-U-E-G 10, and you'll get 10% off. That's K-R-U-E-G 10 to get 10% off in-store or online at sleepworld.com. Well, I took the time to go through, the Jets' entire preseason. I watched all three of their preseason games again. They went 3-0. They're an undefeated team in the preseason. The Jets played the Commanders in week one, and they beat them 20-17. They beat the Panthers in week two, 15-12. 5 field goals, 4 of them by a kicker that's not even going to be on their team. And then they beat the New York Giants 10-6 in the preseason finale. So the Jets are undefeated, and they roll into Levi's in week one to take on the 49ers. All right, let's talk about what we saw in the preseason, and we'll talk a little bit about the Jets overall. All right, that first game, the Commanders, the Jets beat them 20-17. First of all, Aaron Rodgers did not play a single snap in the entire preseason. Not one. Didn't play at all. So, this is his first game since he blew out his Achilles 4 plays into the 2023 season in week one. So he has not gotten on the field. So I think this is a major advantage in week one for the Niners, having the Jets flying across country and Rodgers with his first appearance after not playing at all in the preseason. Now, Adrian Martinez was one of the great stories for the Jets in the preseason. The former Nebraska quarterback was 6 of 10 for 104 yards. He had a couple runs for 24 yards. He had a great little run there in the UFL, and they signed him. And Martinez showed he's got some talent. Braylon Allen had 6 carries for 54 yards in that first game against the Commanders. That's right, a big running back from Wisconsin, averaging 9 yards a carry. Jason Brownlee, the second-year receiver, had a touchdown where he beat Emmanuel Forbes in the back of the end zone. One of the guys that's been one of the stories of Jets camp this summer has been Leonard Taylor, the former Hurricane. He had a sack. He had 2 tackles. He had 2 TFLs. Leonard Taylor, what a great draft choice that was. Number 96 overall. I believe he went undrafted overall. And this was a guy that could have gone in the 3rd round, according to some of the draft projections going into the draft, but Jets wind up getting him in on a steal. Isaiah Davis had a 15-yard reception in the game. He's the rookie. From South Dakota State, the running back. Quantrez Stiggers, the rookie corner from, believe it or not, he never played a down of college football. He was headed to Lane College in Tennessee. His dad then died, and he never went to college. So he played last year for the Toronto Argonauts in the Canadian Football League, and he was the Rookie of the Year. And then the Jets drafted him, and Stiggers has looked really good this summer. And then Zuerlein hit a 56-yard field goal. The man they call Legatron, Greg Zuerlein, the timeless one, made a 56-yard field goal. So Jets win that first game 20-17. The second game, the Jets beat the Panthers 15-12. Will McDonald had an impressive sack in that second game. The Jets, as I said, kicked 5 field goals. The Jets had a quarterback kick returner this summer named Brandon Codrington, who had a fantastic preseason. And then they traded him to the Buffalo Bills for a 2025 6th-round draft choice. So, 1, you don't see a lot of trades. 2, you don't see a lot of trades in the division, and especially not for dynamic players. And Codrington had a dynamic preseason. But they traded him to the Buffalo Bills, because if you look at the Jets and they like Xavier Gibson as their punt returner and their kick returner, they're committed to Gibson. So despite the fact that Codrington had an awesome preseason, they traded him to Buffalo. And then that third preseason game, the Jets beat the Giants 10-6. Izzy Abanaconda, the second-year running back from Pitt, 9 carries, 83 yards. He had a long touchdown run, averaged over 9 yards a carry. Stiggers had a fumble recovery. Tack McKinley had a bust-out day, 2.5 sacks for Tack. Braden McGregor, the former Michigan Wolverine, who did not get drafted, 2 sacks for McGregor. He's really good. Leonard Taylor had 1.5 sacks. It was the Jets just dominating the Giant offensive line. Jets had 8 sacks and 13 hits on New York Giants quarterbacks. Adrian Martinez played well and showed a lot of mobility. Greg Zuerlein missed a field goal in that game. And the undrafted defensive lineman Eric Watts had a really nice pass that he batted down. So once again, their entire preseason, they go 3-0. Rodgers doesn't play at all. And that was just kind of a thumbnail sketch on what the Jets did this summer. So let's talk a little bit about the Jets, the Niners' opponent in Week 1. They haven't had a winning season since 2015. The GM's Joe Douglas, the head coach, as we all know, Robert Saleh. He went 4-13 in year 1, 7-9 in year 2, 7-10 in year 3, 18-33 overall for Robert Saleh. His OC is Nathaniel Hackett. Of course, the first 2 years it was Mike LaFleur, but then, Zach Wilson did not play well, and I think LaFleur got blamed. They brought in Nathaniel Hackett. Jeff Ulbrich, who a lot of people thought maybe the Niners would go after as a defensive coordinator. He stayed in New York, and he's the DC there for the Jets. So the Jets were a 7-win team the last 2 years. They are the ultimate win-now team because of Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers played 4 snaps last year. So if they don't go to the playoffs, if they don't have a big year, Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas could be fired. So Rodgers, as I said, played 4 snaps last year. He blew out his Achilles on that horrendous MetLife field turf. And that's the big question for this year. How mobile is Aaron Rodgers at age 40, and can the Jets protect him? The Jets haven't made the playoffs since 2010. They have a 13-season playoff drought. It's the longest current playoff drought in North American sports, tied with the Buffalo Sabres. So, they have a drought. They want to end it. They got a great defense. They were number 1 in defense according to PFF last year. Their real issue is obviously the health of Rodgers and upgrading their offensive line. They signed Tyron Smith away from Dallas to play left tackle. They signed Morgan Moses to play right tackle. Both those guys are in their 33 years of age, so they're older guys. They also drafted Penn State's star left tackle Olu Fashanu at number 11. They brought in John Simpson, steps in for Laken Tomlinson at left guard. Elijah Vera Tucker's coming off an Achilles. He's the right guard. He's only played 12 games combined over the last 2 seasons, so They badly need to get their offensive line to stay healthy and to keep Aaron Rodgers upright. Defensively, and then receiver-wise, they signed Mike Williams, who only played 3 games last year. They drafted Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky to go with Garrett Wilson, who's an elite route runner. In the backfield, they got Breece Hall as their power back, who's a big back who runs sub 4.4. Braylon Allen, the rookie from Wisconsin, steps in. He's only 20. He's going to be the youngest player in the history of the New York Jets. Doesn't turn 21 until January. And then Izzy Abanaconda, that's their running back trio. Their defense, as I said, was awesome last year, all led by their front, but they lose Bryce Huff to the Eagles in free agency. He left. Then they traded for Hassan Reddick, and he's holding out. So he hasn't played all summer. The Jets, he wants a brand new contract extension. The Jets would rather add money to his current contract than offer him a brand new contract and extend him. And right now he's holding out. He now has demanded a trade. We'll see if Joe Douglas winds up trading Hassan Reddick. I don't expect he'll be there at Levi's in Week 1. And losing Huff is no small deal. I mean, he had 67 pressures last year. He's a great, great player. Now, Quinnen Williams is the man up front. He's the monster in the middle. Led the Jets. He had 70 pressures in 2023. He has to be doubled. Their defense is all driven by their front. Jermaine Johnson had 56 pressures and 7.5 sacks. He's coming into his own. Will McDonald IV, last year, he was their first-round pick, 15th overall. He had a great camp this summer. He had a sack in one of the preseason games. Played in only 184 defensive snaps last year. So expect with Huff moving on that McDonald's going to probably have an uptick in his usage. Sauce Gardner is an All-Pro, future Hall of Famer. He's been a first-team All-Pro in each of his first 2 seasons. DJ Reed, the ex-Niners on the other side, he's really solid. They're not as solid at safety. Chuck Clark, Ashton Davis. Clark's coming off an ACL. I think they're beatable in the middle of the field. Zuerlein made 92% of his 38 field goal attempts last year. Their punter, Morstead, is probably their most consistent player. He punted an NFL high 99 times last year, by the way, and averaged almost 49 yards per attempt, 10th in the NFL. Their return guy is Xavier Gibson. He's a big-time player. He's a big-time speedster. And this is a Jets team that's just trying to change their culture, man. Their last Super Bowl appearance came after the 1968 season when Joe Namath guaranteed victory in Super Bowl III over the Colts and then delivered. They haven't been to the Super Bowl since. Since then, they've got 4 losses in the AFC title game, and that's as close as they've gotten. And the big question is, can Rodgers regain his all-pro form? And can New York's offensive line, rebuilt with 3 new starters, can they block for him? Can they protect him? And if they can, New York has the potential to be great. As I said, they drafted Qantas Stiggers in the 5th round out of the Canadian League. He played for the Toronto Argonauts, and he's looked really good this summer. They've got a legitimate backup quarterback now in Tyrod Taylor. They got C.J. Mosley in the middle, at middle linebacker. He led the Jets with 152 tackles last year. He lacks range, though, and I would imagine that Kyle Shanahan could make Mosley in this game the conflict defender and make him play pass coverage. And if you can get him isolated in pass coverage, you can burn him. If you're watching this game on Monday night, you're going to see a couple players that you're familiar with, and that's Javon Kinlaw and Isaiah Oliver. They both signed with the Jets in this offseason. But this is all about Rodgers and the Jets offensive line. Rodgers is, career 148, 75-1. He's a 4-time MVP. Last year without him, they were a disaster. 31st in total offense, 30th in passing yards, 29th in points per game, 32nd in the NFL in third down percentage. They converted only 12 of 37 red zone attempts into touchdowns, 32.4%, worst rate in the NFL. And they also finished last the year before that in the same category, so that's a big issue for them. Turnover differential, they were 23rd in turnover differential, so they didn't take good care of the football last year. And then, there was some kind of a little bit of a disconnect, they said, between the OC, Hackett, and the O-line coach, Keith Carter, over protections. That obviously is a big issue, and hopefully they've ironed that out for their own good. Rodgers, it's like, what is Rodgers at this point? Rodgers is one of the most biggest unknowns. On one hand, you could say Aaron Rodgers is the best. He's the best. He's a future Hall of Famer. In some ways, you could argue that if he plays to the level that he's reached at times in his career with Green Bay, that he's the best quarterback in football. But he's 3 years removed from his last MVP season. He's 14 years removed from his one and only Super Bowl win. And I think you can ask the question, what is he, at this point? The other big thing to look for Monday night is the Niners are going to test the Jets' run defense. The Jets were 25th in the NFL in run defense. So just to put it in perspective, they were 3rd in total defense. They were 2nd in pass defense. They were but 25th against the run. So the Niners are going to test that run defense early and often on Monday Night Football. You can bank on that. All right, hope you enjoyed our preview of the New York Jets. 3-0 preseason. The Jets are undefeated, and they'll roll into Levi's in week 1, and it should be interesting. But a lot of it's about The Niners are going to test that run D. There's no question. The big question for the Jets offensive line is, can they protect Aaron Rodgers? And what does Rodgers look like? He played 4 plays at 39 and then tore his Achilles and was done for the year. Tried to make a late season comeback. It didn't happen. Now here he is at 40, having only played 4 plays in 2 years, basically. And he's going to have to step in against the 49ers week 1 at Levi's, a Niner team that's kind of had his number in recent years. So overall, you got a pretty good idea of the Jets. They got a real good defensive line. They got a dominant player in Quinnen Williams. They got a dominant number 1 corner in Sauce. They got a really big, fast running back in Breece Hall. They've got Rodgers. And if the Jets' offensive line, which was so bad a year ago, can protect Aaron Rodgers and give him time, he can win. He can absolutely come to Levi's and win. I like the Niners. If you're going to play the Jets, this is a perfect time to play them. Cross-country trip, early in the year, 3 new offensive linemen, 40-year-old quarterback who has only played 4 snaps in 2 calendar years. This is when you want the Jets. So bring them on Monday night. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for sponsoring the Krug Show. Thanks to Mancini's, and make sure, once again, whether you're shopping online or visiting in store, use the code KRUG10 and you'll get 10% off. Again, that's KRUG10 for 10% off at Mancini's Sleep World in store or online at sleepworld.com. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.